Welcome back to another video. Today we're doing a proposed minimum requirement and we're going to jump into Elden Ring. And both Elden Ring and the DLC share the same minimum requirement, so I'm going to jump into it. Since it just came out, if you want to play, let's see if you can handle it. First, the minimum requirement is the i5-8400 or a Ryzen 3 3300X, 12GB of memory, and NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1060, the 3GB variant, or AMD Radeon RX 580 4GB variant, DirectX 12 and 60GB of memory of storage. Welcome to Respawn PC. I'm Dunk. Let's dive on. So we're going to start with the Ryzen 3 3100, not the 3300X because I simply don't have it. And same go for the i5-8400. I don't have the 8-9 gen platform from Intel. And the Ryzen 3 3100 versus the 3300X is the frequency. The 31 is at a 3.6 and the 33 is at a 3.8, both at a 4-core 8-thread. And you'll see in this video that the CPU is not a bottleneck at all. For the GPU, I went with the GTX 1060 3GB variant because I don't have the RX 580 4GB. I didn't even know there was a 4GB variant of the RX 580 before I met that proposed minimum requirement. Anyway. They don't specify the resolution or the target FPS, so let's assume we need to play at the low settings and 1080p and reach an average of 30 FPS. Did I say low settings? Anyway, right now we're at the medium settings. The GPU is in the mid 60 of utilization, so there's still headroom. Maybe we can crank at high settings. Anyway, I'm not there to check high settings. For the VRAM, we had 2.7, almost 2.8, so we're almost maxing out the VRAM of the GTX 1060 3GB variant. The CPU have a lot of headroom, averaging 45 to 50% of utilization and boosting at 3.9 constantly and maintaining it all the time. Almost, and still at 40 Celsius. It's not even overheating. For the memory, we're at 9.6 to 9.9 of utilization out of our 12. So I guess this is right settings, right amount. I'm just not sure who have a stick of 8 and a stick of 4GB in their system, but if you only have 8, you can just buy a 4. And really dropping the settings too low won't change anything. Almost. Instead of 44 FPS, we're averaging 46 FPS, and it look a bit more ugly or a bit more Vaseline-ish. The GPU utilization didn't change much. The VRAM of the GPU didn't change much. The CPU is still clocked at 3.9 and still as cool as a cucumber at the 40 degrees Celsius. The memory was still at the 9GB and some dust. We can easily say that the proposed minimum requirement is to play at medium settings 1080p. The GPU is almost at its max capacity, but the CPU can clearly go lower. How much lower the CPU can go? We're going to see that on the real minimum requirement to play Elden Ring. So if your setup is in a similar specs as this one, then do not worry, you can play this game no issue. The only issue is going to be when you get killed all the time by everything that surrounds you. I need to find myself an 8 and 9 gen Intel platform so I can do more proper testing than just guessing when I don't have the exact proposed minimum requirement. Oh, and by the way, forgot my little disclaimer, the game was played on a fresh install of Windows. There's no junkware or whatever in the background running. No antivirus, nothing. Fresh install, Steam, Elden Ring, done. So if you have different result than I have for similar hardware, write it in the comment. If I have it, I will try it and make a short YouTube video. Back to the proposed minimum requirement. Beside the memory, that's the only thing that seems to be the real minimum requirement. And the next video, we're going to check up which will be the real minimum requirement. I mean, we're going to drop the CPU and drop the GPU in performance until we reach 30 FPS at low settings at 1080p. And that's just an assumption of what should be the real minimum requirement, because the proposed minimum requirement don't indicate either which resolution, FPS targeted, and which settings. It's just, I'm assuming, and hopefully it helped you guys. And hopefully by the next video, I remember how to use a damn health potion. Otherwise, I'm going to die a lot on the next video. And talking about next video, this one is done. See you on the next one.